Welcome to the Intuitive Eating Mama podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer D'Amato. I am an intuitive eating counselor and I'm also a mom to four. This podcast is not just for mamas, it's for all women who are ready to ditch diets, ditch the scale and food guilt forever, and instead invite peace with food, increase their body trust, and confidence in all of her choices. I believe this show is going to shed some light on sneaky ways diet culture has infiltrated your thoughts, your family, and your well-being. No matter the episode, I want you to walk away feeling informed, inspired, and encouraged. So whether you're taking a walk, washing the dishes, or carting kids around, let's dive into the latest episode on the Intuitive Eating Mama podcast. Have you ever beat yourself up for emotionally eating? I mean, if I ask this question in a room of 100 women, my guess is the answer would be about 99 out of 100. I mean, the truth is, we do beat ourselves up for emotionally eating, especially when the emotions are negative. You know, I don't think we're often beating ourselves up when the emotions are positive, you know, whether it's a celebration like a birthday or a wedding, or we're out for a girls' night and things are wonderful and we're eating and we're emotionally eating. But I do think that one of the greatest struggles is not the eating, it's how you feel about yourself when you emotionally eat. Now, I want to share something with you, and then I want to share something else with you. The first thing is I want to share an excerpt from my One Bite at a Time course about emotional eating. I know this is helpful because it's helped all of the women who have gone or are going through this course in my group coaching or my private coaching. But I have something I want to share after this excerpt. It's not very long, but I know it's impactful. I have something for you if you've ever struggled with emotional eating, or maybe you just struggle with food and how you feel about your body. Let's dive into this excerpt from my course, One Bite at a Time on Emotional Eating. If you're the kind of person who likes to really work out and exercise, because I'm going to give you one in this, grab something to write with, something to write on, and let's dive in. Emotional eating is often judged and ridiculed, and diet culture does a really great job of making people feel so guilty and full of shame if they emotionally eat. You may have experienced that personally, but much of the time, food does have emotional associations. You know, eating doesn't occur in this void, in this negative space, and we've forgotten how deeply food is tied to the need for comfort, for feeling safe. It began at birth. You know, this sweet baby is born and he or she is offered milk. It's calming, it's comforting. That first taste of milk may actually set the stage for associating pleasure and comfort with stress. And that connection is reinforced again and again. Whether we got a bump on our head or a scrape on our knee and had food as comfort from our parent or guardian, or we were at a wedding or a birthday and celebrating, food becomes a reward. It becomes reliable and a comfort. And emotional eating covers this wide spectrum of emotions. It can be really pleasurable in celebration, or it can feel really destructive as you're trying to numb out difficult feelings or even trying to punish yourself. Just like everything, emotional eating is not black and white. And there are pros and cons of emotional eating. And I believe it's important to acknowledge how emotional eating has served you. This really is the first step toward healing these negative feelings that you have about yourself when it comes to eating. It's important to note that there are different forms of emotional eating. Most people think about overeating when they think about emotional eating, But emotional eating can come also in the form of restriction, of eating too little, withholding food. It can also even just look like eating for any reason and being completely disconnected from your hunger. So, first, take some time to think about the pros of emotional eating. There are pros. I always say we wouldn't do it if it didn't work, even if it only worked temporarily for a short period of time. It does work. So, list possible ways in which emotional eating has benefited you. Maybe it did offer you comfort, a distraction, a respite from the intensity of what you were feeling. Go ahead and write down anything that comes to mind. Some people find the pros list might be hard because you have always sat in judgment, feeling guilt or shame for emotional eating. But it can be such a freeing exercise to really take the time to look at how it has served you, how it has actually helped you get through certain situations, intensity of emotions, and quite possibly been the thing that has helped you be able to move on. Next, let's take a look at the cons of emotional eating. Go ahead and take some notes of ways in which emotional eating has negatively affected your life. Maybe it came in the form of feeling isolated. You might have experienced physical discomfort, maybe even numbing of positive feelings. Approach this with as much compassion as you can. We want to look at this from a non-judgmental viewpoint. You haven't done anything wrong. Remember, we just realized, looking at the pros, it has benefited and served you in some way. You were doing the best you could. Food is easily accessible to most people in our culture. So when we have high stress, when our emotions feel really intense, it might feel easier to grab the food and establish that habit. Go ahead, take some time, and write the cons down, as many as you can think of. What you might begin to notice as you do this exercise, as there are many pros, lots of ways it has benefited you, there might be a lot more cons, a lot of ways that you have physically, emotionally, or mentally not felt well. And the cons start outweighing all of those pros. If that's the case, it might be even easier for you to let go of emotional eating so that you can find peace and find freedom as you're healing. So, as you enter into this particular area of healing, the emotional eating, using food to cope, I do want you to keep one thing in mind. This is one way to cope. We just don't want it to be the only way we cope. It can help, it's temporary, but in the long run, it might not serve you well. So that is just one audio lesson, one very small little snippet from my One Bite at a Time course. Even in this module for emotional eating, there are multiple audios, lessons, worksheets, and exercises to help you as you're working through emotional eating and no longer wanting to use food to cope, right? It's not your only coping mechanism. You know that now, but you need that support around building what is. And that's exactly what that module does. And again, that's just one module out of the 10 that are included in the One Bite at a Time course. So I told you I had one thing for you, which was that amazing excerpt and exercise, but I also have something else. For all of my amazing podcast listeners, I am giving you $200 off my course. Yep. If you choose the pay in full, you take $200 off using the coupon IEMAMA. That's the letters IEMAMA. You put that in at checkout, it'll take $200 off. That means you have access to this self-paced course that all of my clients utilize for only $199. And I'm only offering this particular discount right here on the podcast. So don't wait. This is one you're going to want to take advantage of. You're going to want to jump into this course, start with those welcome modules to get set up for success, and then you'll be diving into each of the principles of intuitive eating, and not just for understanding, but for implementation. To put things into practice for yourself, to work through those beliefs about food in your body that have kept you stuck. All right. I'm so excited to offer this to you. I've actually been working on making this course accessible to you anywhere, which also means you can download the app that it's on and take the course with you. Sitting on an airplane, going on a road trip, driving to and from work, and you want to have those audios going before you dive into some of the more deeper work at home with worksheets or forms. You have access through my app to have this course anywhere. So all you need to do, head into the show notes, like I said, or to www.theintuitiveeatingmama.com/course. Use the coupon code IEMAMA as a thank you for being a podcast listener. Dive into the content and start healing your relationship with food and body one bite at a time. I can't wait to welcome you into the course and can't wait to meet you right back here on the podcast again next week.